Hi everyone, join me today as I guide you through the step-by-step process of painting this bakery in watercolor. Today I'm going to paint on an Arches 100% cotton cold pressed block. It is 140 pound weighting and a size of 7 by 10 inches. I am going to start with my sketch already inked on the page. You can find the link to the free traceable sketch reference if you have a look in the description box below. I will also put the link to the traceable sketch on the screen now. I've started by mixing a bit of Naples yellow in my paint well, but I've taken my bigger mop brush and I'm going to put water down on the surface of the building first so that I can drop my Naples yellow in wet on wet. So I'm just using clean water and dropping that down on this whole area of the wall. Using my smaller number 4 brush now, I'm going to pick up that diluted mix of Naples yellow and drop it in on the wall. I'm going to put it in closer to where the wall meets the join, and then hopefully the water will let it fade upwards from there. And then I'll go below the join and do the same thing, putting in the color closer towards the top and then using my brush to help it blend downwards. I'm going to just dot in this Naples yellow around the edge of the wall and underneath the sign. I want it to be quite light so that I get a nice blend and that the color isn't too intense. Now I've mixed up some lavender and I'm going to do the same wet and wet effect on the bottom wall using my mop brush to put the water down first, and then I'll pick up that lavender and drop it in from the top and use my brush to help it blend downwards. This isn't a shadow effect yet, but I am looking to put or make the color more intense at the top and then grade it to lighter as I move down the building, just so that it's not all the same color. Then I'm going to put that color in on the bottom and again just allow it to blend upwards, looking to not get a completely even effect across the wall. Now I'm going to try and do a bit of shadow and take a bit of moon glow and put it in up at the top. If you haven't got moon glow, you can use any shadow color like neutral tint or Payne's grey. Even indigo would work. But I like the moon glow. It's a nice granulating color and I think it's a good complementary shadow color for the lavender that I'm using in this painting. So I'm just putting it down at the bottom here, behind the pots and the blackboard. And now I think I'm going to let that dry. Now I'm mixing up some transparent brown oxide and I'm going to do a flat wash over the windows. If you haven't got transparent brown oxide, you could use burnt umber or raw umber or a combination of both. When I say I'm doing a flat wash, I'm not trying to get any difference in tone in the color here. I'm just putting the same flat color over the whole window edge. I'll worry about getting some shadow in during an additional layer. And then I'm going to do the same around the door underneath. Picking up that moon glow again, I'm going to put some shadow on the window underneath the awning whilst it's still wet. I'm dropping that moon glow in wet and wet and helping it to grade downwards. I'll also put some in on the bottom of the door here. And then mixing up a little bit more of the transparent brown oxide, I'm going to do the window on the right as well. I've just got to be very careful as I'm working here that I don't confuse the edge of the window with the shelves that the bread rolls are on. So just be aware of your sketch as you're doing that. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the moon glow and put the shadow in on the window underneath the awning. I'm just rinsing off my brush and helping that moon glow to blend downwards a little bit. And then let me do some shadow on the bottom of the window behind the board and the pot plant. And then I'll just use my brush to help that shadow color blend a bit. Alright, picking up that Naples yellow again, I'm going to work on the basket that the bread rolls are in. Let me put that Naples yellow in first. If you haven't got Naples yellow, then yellow ochre would work just as well. Then I'm taking some burnt umber and I'm going to drop that in to try and get a bit of a curved look to the basket. I'm going to drop it in around the edges and then just dabbing my brush on, I'm going to help the color blend to get a curved look to the basket. Now I'm going to take some burnt sienna and work on the pot next to the door. I want to get the same rounded look to it, so I'm starting with a watery consistency of the burnt sienna and covering the whole pot with that. Then I'm going to pick up that burnt sienna in a thicker consistency and drop it around the side of the pot, on the left and on the right. And then I'm going to use my brush to help it blend from darker to lighter in the center to give it that curved look. I'm going to rinse and tap off my brush on the paper towel and do some lifting so that I can get a lighter accent on the center of that pot, just to get more of a three-dimensional curved look to the pot. And then to increase that contrast, I'm going to take more of the burnt sienna in the thicker consistency and drop it around the edges again. I think that really does make it look more 3D now. And now I'm going to let it dry. I'm going to work on the window pots up at the top now and try and get the same 3D look as I did to the pot next to the door, just on a smaller scale. It's a bit trickier because these pots are so much smaller to try and get that graded look to it, but I'm going to do the best I can. So I'm starting with the weaker consistency mix of the burnt sienna, and then I'm going to put that on the pots first. Where I can, I might even leave a white strip down the middle so that I don't have to do the lifting and that I can get a better contrast. So just taking my brush and drying it off on the paper towel, trying to do a bit of lifting in the center there. I'll take that burnt sienna in the thicker consistency now and drop it around the two sides of each pot to try and accentuate that curved look to each. I think it's turning out nicely. The key here is to try and get as much contrast as possible. So to get a really light strip down the center, combined with the darker contrast color on the sides, is going to make it look more 3D. So as it starts to dry, I can put a little bit more of the darker color down on the side and it doesn't blend so far, and that gets me the 3D look that I'm looking for. Now I'm going to take some yellow ochre and just put that down on the edge of the blackboard. And then taking my burnt sienna, I'm going to just cover the whole step with that, not looking to do any shadow just yet. And now I'm going to let it dry. Now I want to work on the shadow of the windows, so I'm going to mix up that transparent brown oxide in a slightly thicker consistency and just go around the inside edge of all of the window panes with that. If you are enjoying this video so far, I would really appreciate it if you would click the like button. Doing this really helps to grow my small YouTube channel, and it also tells YouTube to share videos like this with other people like you who might enjoy it too. Also, I would love to know where in the world you are watching from. I am a South African living in Chiang Mai, Thailand, and I have been here for a number of years now. I would love to know where you are from. Let me know in the comments box below. Also, give me feedback on my videos, what you're enjoying and what you would like to see more of. I would love to hear from you. So I've just done a first wash of the burnt sienna on the windowsills, and now I'm going to take that transparent brown oxide and do the inside edge of the window and the door. Once that's done, I'm just going to give everything an opportunity to dry so that I don't put my hand in anything. Now I'm going to work on the plants in the pots. I'm going to start with some Hansa yellow medium, and I'm going to cover all of the plants with the yellow first. I really want it to look like a nice bright sunny day with the sun shining on the plants, and that's why I want the yellow accent color on the top. So I'll start by putting the yellow down on all 6 pots. Then I'm going to pick up some sap green. I'm going to have it in a thickish consistency and drop it in underneath the yellow. This is really all just about water control. We want the color to blend, but not all the way up to the top. So if you need to practice this on some scrap paper before you drop it down, then do that. I'm going to rinse and tap off my brush and do a little bit of lifting now. The green has blended upwards a little bit, but I want to preserve the bright yellow color at the top, so I'm rinsing, drying off my brush and then lifting the paint. Now I'll take the sap green in a thicker consistency. The paint is thicker and it's also, the painting is a little bit drier, so the color won't spread as far. And this, putting down this thicker consistency really helps me to increase the contrast between the light yellow at the top and then the deeper green at the bottom. And that really does make the color pop, I think. And then I'll rinse and tap off my brush and just help the color to blend a little bit. Now I'm going to repeat the same thing for the bushes in the pot next to the door. So I'll put the Hansa yellow medium down first. And then I'm going to pick up that sap green again. And using the same technique, I'm going to drop it in at the bottom and allow the green to blend upwards. I'll just use my brush to help the colors to blend. And then I'm going to pick up that sap green in a thicker consistency and drop it in at the bottom once again. Then I'll pick up some neutral tint and just do a flat wash on the center of the blackboard. Now I'm going to work on the awning, and I'm going to mix up a weakish consistency mix of my lavender again, and I'm going to put that color on every second stripe on the awning. I'm using quite a light wash so that I'm able to add in some contrast later on. You'll see that in places I leave a little bit of white here and there on each of the stripes. That just helps to create some contrast and makes it look like it's catching the sunlight. I'll continue on to work on the third in a watery consistency, and leaving a stripe here or there, I'll finish off the lavender stripes. Now that it's starting to dry, I can drop in that lavender in a slightly thicker consistency at the top of each stripe, and then just allow the color to blend. That makes it look not too flat and makes it look like there is a bit of a curve to the awning. I'll lift my paper up just so that my darker color stays towards the top of the awning and that it doesn't blend too far down. I'm just going to use a light consistency mix of the lavender to paint the sign. I'm going to avoid the letters because I'll fill those in later in a different color. But I'm just going to do a flat wash of lavender over the whole sign. I'll worry about shadows later. Now I want to work on the lighting on the interior of the store. I want there to be a nice, warm, moody lighting coming from inside. So to do that, I'm going to use quinacridone gold as my base color. I'm going to mix that in a weakish consistency and just work area by area. So I'll do the area behind this window and the door first, and then I'll do behind the shelves once I'm done here. So I'm putting it down in a weakish consistency mix, and I want it to still be wet when I drop my moon glow in now. So I've got that in a medium consistency, and I'm going to drop it around the outside of each window. I think that gives it a nice vignette look, makes the quinacridone gold not so bright, and really gives a nice warmth to the interior of the store. And then I will repeat for the rest of the windows. If you are enjoying this video and you would like to make a donation to me, you can do so on my Buy Me a Coffee platform. I will put the link in the description box below as well as on the screen now. I'm sure you can appreciate that making tutorials like this along with the traceable sketch reference is an immense amount of work, and I appreciate any and all donations. If you have made a donation, thank you. I'm going to take some burnt sienna in a thicker consistency now and just do the shadow of the step. And then I'm going to take some burnt umber and do the stalks of the tree. And then a little bit of moon glow to put some shadow on one side of the legs of the blackboard. I'm just going to let a bit of music play whilst I do the shadow at the top here and repeat the windows on the top level. Then I'll join you again shortly. I want to do some more work on the awning now, on the white stripes. So I'm going to work wet and wet So I'm going to put some water down over the whole section of each of the white stripes first. Then I'm going to pick up that moon glow in a weakish consistency and drop it in from the top, so that we also get a bit of a shadow look to the white sections of the awning as well. So I'm going to drop that in, allow it to blend, and then when I need to, I'll use my brush and help it to blend even further. I want to keep that shadow area towards the top, but allow the color to blend downwards. As it starts to dry, I will add a little bit more moon glow at the top, just so that I can get a bit more of a gradient. Now I'm mixing up some yellow ochre, and let's start working on the baskets inside the shop. So I'm going to put yellow ochre over all of the baskets. And I'm going to let that dry, and in the meantime let's work on the ground in the foreground. So I'm using my mop brush and I'm going to put water down over the whole area first. Then I'm going to pick up that burnt sienna, mix it up in my paint well, and then drop it down onto the water and allow the color to spread and blend. I'm going to start at the area closest to the shop and allow the color to spread through the water naturally. I'll keep on adding the burnt sienna in a thicker consistency up at the top, just to increase some contrast closer to where the wall meets the ground. And then I will use my brush to encourage the color to blend downwards. And I'll just keep on going back, because the more I blend, the more dilute the color gets at the top. So I will keep on adding more color up at the top and allow it to blend down. I'm going to work on the curtains now, and staying with the vintage look, I'm going to use Potter's Pink, but you can use any color. I'm going to pick up some neutral tint now and add it to the lavender. And I'm going to do the fold over of the awning. I really love when I do that, because as soon as I put that shadow color down, the whole awning pops into 3D. I'll do the white stripes later, and let me do the shadow around the sign as well. Picking up the Naples yellow, I'm going to start working on the buns. I'll pretty much do the same thing for all of them. I just might vary my consistencies of the colors as I go through. But for now, I'll start with a base of Naples yellow on all of the products inside the shop. Then I'm picking up some burnt umber, and now I'm going to add a bit of contrast to everything. So I'm kind of putting the burnt umber on the top of the buns, and here on the French loaves I'm adding a bit of contrast color. And I'll just work through all of the buns and products in the windows and add a little bit of burnt umber to all of them. As the color blends on the French loaves, I just want to increase the contrast, so I'll drop some more burnt umber into them. I'm going to take some burnt sienna and do the shadow edge of the windowsills on the top. I probably should have just done this at the same time as I did the step. And then I'm going to take some raw umber and I'm going to do the shelves inside the shop. Then I'm picking up some moon glow and mixing it with the Naples yellow and just darkening the shadow on the side of the legs of the blackboard. And now I'm making a very watery mix of neutral tint, and I'm going to do the shadow on the white sections of the awning. I'll just add a little bit more neutral tint just to darken that shadow a bit. Now I'm going to take the quinacridone gold and do the lettering on the sign. I think we're nearly there now. It's just doing these last few bits and bobs which I think really do start bringing the painting together. Then I'm going to mix some raw umber with the burnt sienna and these are either going to be bagels or donuts. I think at the beginning I thought maybe I would do some coloured sprinkles on them, but they're just too small to do anything with, so that's why I'm doing them now after the fact and adding a bit more contrast on the right there. Then I'm going to take my moon glow, mix it up in a weakish consistency, and now I'm going to start doing some shadow work, which I really think brings it all together. So I'm going to do the cast shadow of the pots on the windowsill, as well as all of the furniture outside the shop on the street here. And these shadows really make it pop and make it look like it's on a bright sunny day. I think doing shadows like this are really the cherry on top of the whole thing. Now I'm going to just take that moon glow and do a little bit of a shadow under the windowsills at the top, down the side of the windows. In my mind the sunlight is coming from the top left, so all shadows will be bottom and right. And lastly, let's add some accents with a white gel pen. I'm just getting the ink to start flowing with the gel pen. And now I will do my writing on the blackboard. And then a gold gel pen, I'm going to also just get the ink flowing with that and do the door handle. And there's the final sketch. Thank you so much for joining me today. Please hit the like button and let me know what you think in the comments box below. Until next time, bye for now.